Imagine you buy a lottery ticket and put it somewhere in your room and forget about it. After a few days, that ticket wins the jackpot for $1 million, but since you have forgotten about it, you throw it away with the other old papers when you're cleaning your room. How would you feel if you learned that you have thrown away $1 million? I'm sure you'd feel horrible. What if I tell you that you are probably throwing away more than $1 million by making certain money mistakes? It's true that you don't throw it away at once, but you do it slowly. If you avoid making those mistakes, you can save hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars over your lifetime. In this video, I will talk about 3 money mistakes and how to fix them. Don't worry, I'm not going to tell you to stop spending money on the things you love, such as coffee, eating at fancy restaurants, buying expensive shoes, etc. Quite the opposite. I will show you how you can spend even more on such things and still save and invest a lot. A small note. The information you'll hear in this video is not financial advice and they don't belong to me. They come from a book called I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. Mistake number 1, relying on willpower. Probably the biggest lie is to cut back on your morning coffee. The explanation goes something like this. If you save $2 a day by making coffee at home, you'll save $62 a month, which equals around $700 a year. Properly invested, that'll grow into $10,000 in 10 years. Wrong. Let me explain why this doesn't work. We have to make this choice every day, regardless of factors such as how much we love coffee, how stressed we are, or how we drive by the coffee shop on the way to work. We have to use our limited willpower first thing in the morning every day. And what these no coffee finger waggers aren't taking into account, as they gorge on their homemade coffee, is that every decision we make to not buy that latte, to not consume that, to not have that, depletes our willpower. As a result, you start cutting back a few days, and one day you feel really stressed, so you tell yourself that you can buy a latte from time to time. And soon you realize you're buying it again every day. You get motivated again, cut it out completely, and the cycle repeats. Let's imagine you're able to resist and not buy coffee. Here's another problem. $2 savings from coffee is a small amount. It's very hard to see its positive impact and stay motivated unless you transfer it to a different account, or literally withdraw it from the ATM and put it into some jar every time you save so that it keeps you motivated. Otherwise, it will just get lost in your account and you'll end up spending it on something else. Let's imagine you have a super discipline and you were able to keep all your coffee savings in a jar. Here's the next problem. How do you invest it? What account do you put it in? I hope you can see how this becomes much more complicated. Money mistake number 2, debating over small things. Did you ever wonder why so many people get fat after finishing high school? After graduation, you may have noticed a lot of your friends have gained weight. Usually, these are the friends who used to say things like, "There's no way I'll ever get fat." Why is that? Well, weight gain doesn't happen overnight. Instead, it creeps up on us a few grams at a time, and before we know it, we're 10 kilos heavier. So what do? We overwhelm ourselves with small choices such as which brand of protein bar to buy, which running shoes are the best, instead of focusing on the big wins of eating less and exercising more. If you think about it, money works in the same way. We spend years obsessing over every single tiny financial detail and never take action on the areas that matter. Before we know it, we're financially in trouble and fixing it seems overwhelming. As a result, we just ignore the topic of money completely because it makes us feel guilty, like our fitness and food. The reason comparing food to money makes sense is because when it comes to food, we don't track our calorie intake. In a similar way, we don't track our spending. We eat more than we realize, and in a similar way, we spend more than we realize. We debate over small things, such as types of diets, type of shoes, or type of workout. Again, in a similar way, we debate about interest rates and hot stocks. We listen to recent anecdotal advice about food. We listen to our parents or TV giving us financial advice. Just like with our fitness, when it comes to our personal finances, most people only need to focus on 2 things. First, setting up a no-fee bank account and automating spending, investing, and saving. Second, investing earlier in life so we can let our money grow for 30+ years. But this is not sexy, and it's not as tactical as the penny pinchers who tell you to stop spending on everything. Mistake number 3, thinking you can wait. Procrastination is a silent but slow killer for your money. We all put things off, of course, but waiting until the last minute to get smarter with our money is one of the worst things we can ever do. Every year we wait to get started with investing and saving puts a huge dent in our long-term financial plans. Here's an example. Let's say you start investing $100 a month when you're 25 years old. You keep putting the same amount into your portfolio for 10 years until you are 35 years old. At the age of 35, you stop putting money into your portfolio. You simply let your investment grow until the age of 65 without you adding any extra money to it. Your friend knows about your investment but always postpones to start. Finally, he starts to invest at the age of 35, 10 years after you. Exactly like you did, he also puts $100 a month into his portfolio. But compared to you, he continues putting $100 a month until the age of 65, which means he continuously invests for 30 years. You only invested 10 years, but your friend kept investing 30 years until the age of 65. So now the question is, at the age of 65, who has more money, you or your friend? It might be surprising, but the answer is you. Even though your friend invested 20 years longer than you did, simply starting earlier allowed you to have $50,000 more money than him by the age of 65. It's not hard to become rich, but it takes work and consistent saving, and so it's easier for a lot of people to shrug their shoulders and put it off for another day. Unfortunately, every extra year you wait to start investing makes it dramatically harder to make the same amount of money. Let's say your friend saves $200 every month and invests with an annual return of 10%. You also decide to do the same thing as your friend, but you start 1 year later. Now let's look at the 40-year future and see how this 1 year difference has impacted your portfolio. From the surface, it seems like you only invested 1 year less, which is $2,400 less, 12 times $200. But if you look how it impacted your portfolio, you will see that you have earned almost $120,000 less compared to your friend. Yes, you heard that right. Just starting 1 year later made you earn $120,000 less. So don't just say that it's only 1 year or it's only $2,400. Now you're probably saying, okay, I heard enough about mistakes. Can you tell me then what works when it comes to saving and investing? The answer is automating and building a system that saves, invests, and pays your bills while you sleep. I'll explain this more in a bit, but for now, keep in mind that if you follow the steps that I'm going to describe, you will be ahead of 99% of people. You will gain 3 big advantages. Number 1, your behavior of spending, saving, and investing will be automated. Number 2, you will not have to force yourself. Number 3, all of your money will go where it's supposed to, automatically. The main reason we can't save and invest as we want is because of too many choices we face every day. Automation is the solution to reduce choices and dominate your money. Think about the 20+ money decisions you have to make every day. Should you save more? What should you cut down on? What about investing? Real estate or stocks or index funds? Pay off debt? Did you send the payment on time? Is it time to rebalance your portfolio? Etc. Faced with an overwhelming number of choices, most people respond in the same way. They do nothing. As Barry Schwartz explained in his book called The Paradox of Choice, the more choices we face, the less likely we are going to take action. Many people believe that personal finance is only about willpower. The idea goes like this. If I just try harder, I'll start saving more, pay off my debt, keep a budget, stop spending more, start investing. Unfortunately, regardless of how strong your willpower is, you will not be able to do all that. Putting money into our saving account every month is painful. Just like cutting back on coffees, you may do it once or twice, but if you have to make the decision every paycheck, you're setting yourself up to fail. That's why automation is critical to successfully getting control over your finances. The beauty of automation is that you have to make a decision once and then maintain it with a little bit of effort. To demonstrate how automation looks like, let's look at Alex and his system as an example. Alex gets paid every month on the 15th. His employer deducts 5% of his pay automatically and puts it in his retirement account. The remaining 95% of Alex's paycheck goes to his checking account. About 2 days later, on the 17th, his automatic money flow begins transferring money out of his checking account. His investment pulls 5% for itself. His savings account pulls another 5%. Now 85% of Alex's money is remaining in his checking account. 1 day later, on the 18th of the month, his system automatically pays his fixed costs like Netflix, cable, loan, insurance, and transfers money automatically for his credit card bills. At this point, the money that remains in his account is used for guilt-free spending. That's the fun money. Since everything important is taken care of automatically, Alex can use this for anything he wants. Alex loves partying and shoes, so he spends $800 a month on just partying and buying new shoes. I hear you judging Alex for wasting money on things such as partying and shoes, but what you don't know is that Alex has a conscious spending plan. I'm sure you are wondering what that is. A conscious spending plan starts with this mindset: spend extravagantly on the things you love and cut costs mercilessly on the things you don't. Let me repeat that. Spend extravagantly on the things you love and cut costs mercilessly on the things you don't. Alex lives in a very cheap neighborhood in a very small apartment. For him, an apartment is not important since he's single and he spends most of his time at work. He also doesn't pay any gym membership. He prefers running in the park rather than training at the gym. To put it simply, Alex has identified what are the less important things for him and cut the costs mercilessly on them, and has directed that money into things he loves, such as partying. From outside, he might look like a guy who's not responsible with his money because of his spending on parties and shoes. But in reality, he's ahead of the majority of people. The biggest problem is that most people aren't deciding what's important to them and what's not. Most of us aren't consciously thinking about our spending. We're not looking at the future and planning where our money should go. We're usually going through life doing whatever and seeing our spending patterns from the bills we get at the end of the month. So by the end of the month, Alex has spent less than 2 hours monitoring his finances, yet he has invested 10%, saved 5%, paid all of his bills on time, paid off his credit card, and has spent extravagantly on the things he loves without feeling guilty about it. If you're interested in automation and creating a conscious spending plan, then here is a 2-step formula. First, categorize your spending. Recommended categorization can look like this. Category 1, fixed costs. 50 to 60% of your net income should generally be going to fixed costs. These are things like your rent, your mortgage, utilities, etc. Category 2, investment. 10% should be going to investments. These are long-term retirement investments. Category 3, short-term savings. This is where 5 to 10% of your money will go. These are things like saving for a down payment on a house, gifts, or a vacation. Finally, here's the most exciting category: guilt-free spending. 20 to 25% should go here. This money is going to be used for things such as eating out at restaurants, buying new clothes, or whatever else you want. Once categories are done, here's a second exercise to complete your conscious spending plan. This exercise is called Think, Want, and Do. Take a blank sheet of paper and write down how much you think you are spending in each of those categories we just described above. Then write down how much you want to spend in those categories, and finally write down how much you actually do spend. To make it easier, you can take a look at your spending over the last 30 to 60 days. Once you're done, you're going to know what type of changes you need to make. You may find out that you are spending on certain things more than it should be, and you need to adjust it. Based on the newly adjusted plan, you can start setting up automatic payment orders in your account so that your new plan gets implemented without any involvement from your side. I'm sure some people are going to say that creating a plan is not going to work for them since they have a lot of unexpected expenses. You've probably heard things such as, "Dude, every time I think I'm getting ahead, my car breaks down or I have to replace some appliances. I didn't expect to get that traffic ticket," etc. Here's the trick. A lot of what seems unpredictable is extremely predictable over the long term. What seems like surprise expenses is actually not a surprise if you analyze your spending for the past year, which of course nobody does. For example, that surprise car repair, it might not happen in the same month, but every year you might average spending about $400 on car repair. That's $33 a month. Once you know that, set up an automatic deposit into your savings account, and you're done. Thank you very much for watching. I hope it was helpful.